Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here for Church Revitalization. The goal is to give information that's valuable from people that have studied and done the research, uh, actually meant for others that maybe are in the urban areas or in the areas where there's not a lot of friendship and relationship. And we want to give information that's valuable to everybody, a pastor, a staff member, a ministry leader. And so today I have with us Ed Trinkle, pastor of Warehouse Church in Plano, Texas. Ed, thanks for joining us, man.
I'm honored, Pastor Phil. Thanks for having me on. I guess I'm doing the beard revitalization thing with you because you have a great beard, buddy. I'm telling you right now.
Thank you. Thank you very thank you very
All
much. You
right.
are at camp with your kids. Now, you know what that tells me? You are willing to invest in your church family. You know, ministry is all about people, and that's exactly what you're doing there at camp, aren't you?
Oh yeah, we love. I love. I don't. I'm not going to lie. I'm not here for 5 days and 4 nights like some of the other guys are. But I usually, I've been to just about every youth camp our kids have been a part of. I love it. I used to do camps back 100 years ago, but I love seeing our students and investing in them, and I get some time with our leaders, and yeah, it's a great time. I love it.
That's fantastic. Hey, listen, you have studied church revitalization, and you matter of fact, I understand you've written a book.
Yes,
What's
sir.
the
It's
name?
sold.
What's the name of this book?
It's it's sold tens of tens all over across the world. It's called the Church Revitalization Playbook. It's got like a little football play on the front of it. You can buy it on Amazon. They're going fast. You might want to get yours today. But I really did a study of the three churches that I personally have led in church revitalization, and really it was just a microcosm of my of the study that I had to do for my PhD. So I just
Okay.
kind of condensed it into an easy to read book. But yeah, I mean, revitalization is a funny thing. I mean, years ago, there's different terminology that's been used for it. Back when you and I started pastoring, Pastor Phil, I think it was called church transitioning. And there were some really good books by some guys connected to Rick Warren's movement. A church down in southeastern Florida that transitioned, and they started something called the Church Transitioning Movement or Church Transitioning Conferences.
Mhm.
And it was really teaching old school churches like we're all part of, and nothing wrong with that. I mean,
Yes.
the thing about the BBFI that's so great is and Sean says this a lot when talking about why are you still part of the BBFI. He says, why would you not be part of a group of guys that you were kind of birthed and born in a ministry? And there's really just, it's all about, and I
Yeah.
think we kind of forget this sometimes, it's really supposed to be all about the fellowship piece, not about, you know, some of the things that are weird and are
Yeah.
divisive, which shouldn't be. But
Yeah.
um, when church revitalization first popped up, it was, about music and about, how you were dressing for church and, you know,
Translations.
all that kind of stuff. But now it really feels like that's not part of the conversation anymore. And what I'm seeing with churches that I have personally revitalized, and now I'm coaching churches, and specifically this one church, it's really about structure and freeing the pastor up to lead his church in the way that God's called him to, because we have so many churches they're just stuck.
Yeah.
When the average size of the evangelical Baptist church in the United States of America is 40,
Yeah.
you know, and I love sharing that because it makes me feel like my church is big. So, and then I'll hear Anthony, Sean, and Brian on this thing with you. I'm like, oh, no, I'm small again. But, but the truth is there's a reason churches stay stuck and stay small. They've never, could be their towns. And I'm not bagging anybody for the size of their church. That stuff
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of guys inherited really, really tough situations. Like I'm helping my brother in a church in Midlothian, Virginia, and they just had issues with their bylaws, with their past. There's some sin stuff that was involved, and you really have to know how to navigate through those things if you're going to lead through it.
Sure. Okay. So you use the word transitioning. And I understand that, and you understand that. But as far as defining our terms, give me a small paragraph of how you would define either transitioning or church revitalization. Give me a little paragraph instead of a single word.
Yeah, sure.
What would you say?
Okay, so if you were to watch, and I use this in my illustration in my book, if you were to watch uh, a show on television about the emergency room, or like there's a really good show on an unnamed channel called The Pit, and it's about the emergency room. And a lot of the guys have seen it, even though they won't admit it because it's on TV. So anyway, um, every one of those shows you see at one time or another, and I use this term, they use the shocky paddles on somebody,
Okay.
to kind of bring them back to life. And I think that's what
Okay.
church revitalization is, a little bit of a small description, because it's not just revitalization. Sometimes it's resurrection. I mean, the church has been stuck doing the same thing for so many years. And then when a new person comes in, the people that called that pastor are expecting different results, but they want it done the same way. And it's just not going to happen that way. But it's not just about, like we said earlier, it's not just about the music and translations and the screen on the front of the church and, some of
Yeah.
those things that people get hung up about. It really has a lot to do with the business of the church. For
Okay.
instance, you and I both run a small business. Now, some of our spiritual brethren might like that terminology, but the fact of the matter is we run a small business.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual thing, and there's a lot more to it than just running a business.
Sure. Yeah.
But if we're not running our business properly with our finances, with the direction we're taking, where are we going? Where are we leading our people to? What kind of vision do we have for the future, for our community, and for the world, as God wants to work through our church? When you get kind of stuck in the same patterns for years and years, and you don't know anything else, then your church needs revitalization. It really
Okay.
needs something that's going to come in and get them stirred up again to do what we're supposed to do, and that's reach people with the gospel.
Okay. So you mentioned the business part of that. So I would say
Yes, sir.
there's an accountability element. I think there is an organizational element there, but there's a spiritual element.
Of course.
Can you give me some of this, some of maybe the spiritual, dare I say, traditions? Maybe
Yeah.
some of the things that are signs that a church needs to be put the paddles on and they need to be shocked. Is there anything that comes to mind? I don't know if you could put your finger on some of those things, but what might
Yeah.
be an example of a church that needs revitalization?
Well, we all get hung up on the numbers conversations, right? How many did you have on Easter? You
Sure.
want to see the telephone lines light up the busiest day of the year for pastors? It's the day after Easter. We love Jesus bragging on the day after Easter. The best attendance of the year. We had,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but here's the thing. If we believe that people matter to God, and if we believe that we are his mouthpiece to the world for evangelism, then reaching people for Christ through our church ought to be something that's very valued.
Good. Correct.
Now, in my church in Philadelphia, and this was actually true in the church that I'm now pastoring too, but specifically in my church in Philadelphia, when we wound up taking a difficult situation, God breathed some life into it. We had to reset up. We set up the bylaws. We had to take care of some debt. We had to do some things, but then we wound up merging with another American Baptist church in our town. Well, they had a really bad name in the community because they really had an us for no more mentality. This is the way
Yeah.
we've always done it. They had a really, really hard time with people from the world coming into their church. People would have a hard time with the way that they dressed, the way that they act. If a dude walked into church with a tattoo on his neck, it would just send people, running through the doors. I mean, it was really that bad.
Mhm.
And so when we merged with this church, we brought about 600 people over from our church to what would eventually we would merge with this other church called Marcus Hook Baptist Church. And we became the bridge church. We were at the bottom of a bridge, and plus we were Jesus's bridge to the world, all
Okay.
that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So our first combined service we had about a month into it, I'm sorry, when we were there, we did an early service where we kept some of the old school music and we honored them, and it was beautiful. Some of the people from my church actually preferred that old school music. So the people from Marcus Hook Baptist Church, of about 60-ish people, saw their specific service that we did for them go from 60 to 180. And then the second church service, we had about 500 plus in that second service. And what we did was we baptized between the two services because we wanted everybody to see the baptisms,
Okay.
especially early on in the relationship with these
Sure.
folks.
Mhm.
Well, that first baptism, we baptized maybe 35 people. And there were two reactions from the people from the original church. One was a guy named John, was one of the kindest. He was kind of their representative, an elderly gentleman, maybe in his early 70s, been part of the church since he was 16 years old. Came up to me after church weeping. He said, we haven't seen this many people baptized in our church for the last 15, 20 years combined.
Wow.
And he was just moved by it. And then I had another lady come up to me. Why aren't those people wearing baptistry robes? We have baptistry robes and burr, 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 burr.
Wow.
And I said, Miss Barbara, there's 8 baptistry robes. We had 35 people getting baptized. So we bought them all a t-shirt because we wanted everybody to be modest, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she said, well, they could have taken those baptistry robes off and shared them. And she just missed it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the way that they've always done things. Like they were used to baptizing their kids that went to the church, that grew up in their church, instead of drug addicts, you know, reformed prostitutes. Literally, this is what was baptized that day. Wow. And you know, marriages restored. I mean, because the thing is, people's lives are messy.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, you and I would love it on Sunday if like 25 people joined our church that were multimillionaire Christians who knew how to tithe, that own Hobby Lobbies and Chick-fil-A's. I mean, that would be the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But usually when people come to church, they're looking for an answer because their life is jacked up, like mine is, like everybody else's is.
Yeah.
And we were able to see real life change happen. But the sad part is some people didn't like it and they went to another super duper conservative church down the road that did the same thing, had only older people, never hardly baptized people, never hardly had people saved in their church services.
They had enough baptismal robes. They had enough baptismal robes, didn't they? Yeah.
To do a Baptist dance.
Did you grow up in a church like that that only did baptismal robes, or had a way that they did it and that's the way that they did it?
Oh yeah. I mean, all of us. But you know, the thing is that I try to encourage guys with, the way that we used to do stuff wasn't wrong. Like, we don't have to be like anti old school church in order to revitalize a church. If you come in with a foundation of, we're building off of a foundation of people that did great things for Jesus Christ. For instance, you look at the bus ministry stuff. We would look at bus ministry as the most irrelevant, old school thing that a church could possibly do today in today's culture. Back when bus ministry started, people didn't own 2 or 3 cars a household. Yeah. It was cutting edge ministry to spend all this money. And the whole purpose of bus ministry is to get people in your community and provide transportation for them to come to your church. I mean, that was really something that it swept across our country. The backbone of the BBFI was built on churches like that. That's great stuff, right? The old hymns. And here's the thing, you know, you and I were both in BBFI meetings when Dr. Boland and the worship pastor from High Street would lead the meetings. Yeah. Hollywood Dwayne
Earl Smith,
Dwight. Hollywood Dwight would do it with his perfect hair. And man, the singing was unbelievable.
So could we say a gross oversimplification of church revitalization is taking it from the how, because everybody was in the mode, to the why?
Sure. I think it has become very easy for us to get used to what we know.
Sure.
There is comfort in tradition. Tradition's not a bad thing. I mean, look at the biggest golf tournament in the United States, the Masters. It's all about the tradition. So those aren't bad things, but it's a pretty brave thing to go through with your leadership team, because you're asking yourself some very hard questions. Are we and this is one of the first questions that I go through with church boards and with pastors is, would it matter to your community if your church closed down?
Yeah.
I said that to my church 2 weeks ago on a Sunday morning. I said, would it matter if Warehouse Church wasn't here? Would less people get saved because this church was in existence?
Yeah.
Would less money go to the foreign mission field to help missionaries? Would less churches be planted because we weren't here anymore? Because if we're here, we got to make ourselves count. Are we ourselves doing what we expect of other ministries? Like if you had a missionary that hadn't won anybody to the Lord Jesus in years and was in a little podunk tiny church in the middle of nowhere, the Philippine Islands, and you're not getting letters from them and you're not getting reports of hundreds and hundreds of getting saved and baptized, you'd give that dude a call and say, hey, bro, what's going on? Do you need, there's no signs of life. So we talk about signs of life, signs of health, and they're categorized in different areas. Spiritual health, of course, physical health, what's your building look like? What are your first time guests seeing when they walk in your building? Go through a bunch of stuff with that. And then even the financial health. I mean, back in the day, guys would build big buildings, host a great fellowship meeting there, and then retire from their churches, leaving the guy that followed them a buttload of debt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's those kind of things that happen where,
and
like I know I went to BBC. You went to BBC, correct?
Yes, I did.
And I love my alma mater. BBC was one of the best influences in my whole life. Nothing but love for BBC for me, Mission University. But we didn't take business classes.
Yeah, no.
Most pastors didn't learn how to personally invest or have side gigs going that could support their ministry while their churches were smaller. And should we or should we not take, the argument for us taking retirement versus Social Security was all about the churches paying pastors less money. That was the reason they did it. I mean, so we weren't trained to be businessmen for our small business, when in fact the financial business part that we run as a church ought to be tighter and better run than even a business in the world, because we are the church.
Yeah, got on.
So you have the physical aspect, you have the relative aspect, and then of course the most important is the spiritual aspect, like you said.
Okay, so for the pastor sitting out there, Lord help us if there's a pastor sitting out there that can't define a healthy church, but simply define a healthy church. And it's so if you say, I have a massive building, I've got a big mortgage, and the place is packed, does that necessarily constitute a healthy church? I would say no. I think you would say no. But if we go back 30 years, we would look at that as a church member and say, man, that is a growing church. That's incredible. But let's look at the spiritual aspect of it and give me a guideline or some kind of a standard we could say, hey, that's a healthy church.
That's a great question, because like you said earlier, they're broken down in different categories, right? I mean, you could have a healthy church financially with $1 million in the bank and properties that are paid for, but are new people coming in out of your doors? Do you have a discipleship process that's clearly defined and understood by your current body and by newer people that are coming in? Correct. Is the gospel being presented on a regular basis? Is the word of God the foundation of everything that you teach and preach? Do you have healthy leaders in your church that are exemplifying the values of your church? And is there unity in your church? You and I have both walked in churches where you walk in and you're like looking around and everybody's mad at each other. And you're like, what in the world? Like when I first took our church in Dallas, I brought my associate pastor down, and one of our ladies on staff, and her name is Mary Ann. And I said to Mary Ann, they know I'm hiring people, but they don't know how I'm hiring. So I want you to walk in like a first-time guest. And I just want you to take notes.
Fresh eyes.
Take notes as, fresh eyes. What was your experience as a first-time visitor to this church? And I gave her a list of like 50 questions. And she came in and she went, we have some work to do.
Wow.
She had somebody ask her to move because she was in her seat. She had somebody at the front desk actually chide her for not filling out her visitor card properly. And the representation of of the values of that church was not demonstrated by what they were doing.
Okay.
And it was pretty tough. I did something a couple years ago when I was going through my training in church revitalization through the Rayner Group, and I went through some pretty comprehensive training with them, not only to help our church, but in helping others as in consulting. I went to this place that I go to for lunch called Spin Pizza, and this gal that would wait on us all the time. We invited her church all the time. And this was not my idea. I stole this, but I said to her, I said, hey, listen, and my wife was with me. It wasn't weird. I could be the weird progressive guy sometimes. You know what I mean? Like acting like my dad. My wife says, I got to tone it down a little bit. But I said to this gal, I said, hey, would you hear everything I'm saying? Would you consider coming to our church on Sunday if I gave you $100? And she said, why would you pay me to go to your church? I said, I want you to come to our church and fill out a questionnaire that I'm going to give you, because I would like to see what first-time guests see in our church. Nobody but you and me and my wife will know that I'm giving you $100. And as a matter of fact, I'm not even going to give it to you. My wife knows who you are. After church, she's just going to hand you an envelope. But I want to see what it looks like for you. And we had questions like, from the parking lot to the front door, were the bathrooms clearly marked? Did people who greeted you at the front door tell you where the bathrooms were? I mean, just everything,
Okay.
And boy, the response was amazing for us. And I use that, when it's one of the, tenets that we try to use. What do people in the community think about your church? So I had 3 different people. She was a young single mom, and I had a really hip, cool looking college student that had great tattoo game and was just a good looking dude. Right. And then I had this middle-aged, I did 4 people, middle-aged mom, and then a senior citizen dad. And boy, their comments were great. One of the guys came on a Sunday where we did communion and baptism. Unchurched guy. Now think about this. Dude walks into the church. He sees us passing out these little cups of Jim Jones Kool-Aid. And the younger guys are going to need to look that up because that's back from the 80s.
Guyana.
And now you're going to take this, and then we got some people that are going to get up in front of the stage because they've bought into whatever we're selling. We're going to put them in the water and dunk them. And these women are going to be in front of everybody, this whole church, getting dunked in water. I mean, for a non-Christian, we do weird stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But if we're not teaching people about it, helping them understand it, of course it's going to be weird. But if it's something that's of value and we can speak into it through your new members class or your new 2 warehouse church class like we do, or different things like that, then these concepts for first-time guests are going to feel like, wow, I'm asked today to come and be a part of something that I'm very unfamiliar with. And we use weird language like in church, like fellowship and just all that kind of stuff. So I mean, those are just kind of different things.
Yeah. Okay. So for the guy that's out there where he does something that Sunday because that's what they've done that Sunday every year for the last 30 years. And they're going through the motions and they're doing this and they're doing that and doing all of those things, but he doesn't see any spiritual growth. There's no discipleship going on and there's no training. And he is just spinning his wheels and maybe even frustrated because of that. What should that individual be looking at? Okay, good.
It starts in the mirror, bro. It starts in the mirror. We have to be willing to ask ourselves very, very hard questions.
Okay.
There is a fantastic book called, I think it's called Autopsy of a Dying Church, and it's by Rayner.
Yes.
And it gives you
big former Southern Baptist leader and still part of the Southern Baptist Convention, but incredible writer. Excellent. Okay.
Oh,
yes.
Great writer. And everybody's read something by him, but he spent a lot of time building up this revitalization ministry that he leads. And I went through all that stuff, and really it was better for me than I don't know if I've given guys as much as I've received from it. But 2 really, really great books, the Autopsy of a Dying Church, and there's another one, I think it's called 8 Characteristics of a Healthy Church Member. You know why a lot of church members don't even know if they're healthy, a part of the body? Because they don't know what a healthy church member looks like.
Wow.
But all of it starts with me, right? what's my relationship with the Lord look like? I mean, this is so simple stuff
Me
that
as
we
the
probably
pastor or
overlook
me as the member?
sometimes.
Me as the,
Pastor,
okay. All right.
church revitalization starts in the heart of the pastor. What's
Okay.
your relationship with Christ looking like? Do you have that fire you had years ago at youth camp when you surrendered to go into ministry? Or
Yeah,
are you
good.
operating kind of in the status quo of making everybody happy all the time? You kind of feel stuck, right? That book, The Autopsy of a Dying Church, gives you characteristics of churches that aren't healthy. And frankly, if you read through that, you will see in yourself and in your church. Listen, every church needs help. There's no perfect church out there
Right.
because they're run by goofballs like us. That's just the truth. And it's a perfectly healthy church, run by human guys with human people, it's a pretty high expectation. But a healthy
Yeah.
church is people that are pursuing health. And it's kind of like dieting, like nobody likes to talk about dieting. Dieting is more than an Ozempic shot and you pray that it works out. Dieting is daily healthy life choices. It's the same for the church. So it's got to start in my heart. Is my relationship with Jesus where it needs to be? And then I've got to be secure enough in myself to know that I need help and I can't do this by myself. And there is great coaching available out there through the Rayner Group. My buddy Daryl Gautier, who's also a trustee at the college at Mission
Yes.
U,
Mhm.
he's trained in this as well. There's a lot of guys that are trained to do this. Go to a healthy church. Like, take some of your church budget or use some of your own money if you have to, and go to like Brian Moore's church or Sean's church, and you'll see these great organizations run by just regular guys. Sean's my buddy. I went to school with Sean. He's
Yeah.
not like the super duper, higher power archangel type of guy. He's just a regular guy. But he's been obedient to the Lord. And Sean will tell you, for him, it's been coaching and resources. So if you get the right coaching, that'll help you take some of the steps that you need to take. Go to Anthony Milas's church. You want to see a church that's um, it's almost, Anthony's church is an enigma. I told Anthony he needs to write a church called "How to Build a Church in New England, 175 people at a time." People know that Anthony's church runs about 2,000, and he's got a great big church. He's doing like 15 services.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
auditorium holds 177 chairs.
Yeah.
Like, that's
And
it.
he said that the crazy part about that ministry is there's small buildings and there's no place to park. So you can't crowd everybody into one service. You got to have these multiple
Yeah,
services.
and he's a pastor's nightmare in this way. Like, if you take your board members to his church, and I've done that, and you say, okay, and you talk to him about it. So how many people do you have on staff at your church? He'll tell you, well, my church runs about 2,000. I have 6 full-time people. And I'm like, my church barely runs 300 and I got 6 full-time people. I mean, it really speaks into the leadership pipeline. It
Yeah.
speaks into training people, training volunteers. I mean, you're the
His people are
constant
always
process of
training
training and
somebody.
releasing.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. The life, the leadership training process that he takes his people through is incredible. We're adopting a lot of that in our church right now. We're going through a thing with our leaders where we are going through vitalization. This is like the 4th time I've done it, where we're breaking down everything we do and rebuilding it. There's no sacred cows in anything we do right now. And we're trying to identify how we can grow and get healthier and be a healthy church. Because even though I am way younger than you and Pastor Anthony, Pastor Phil, you're welcome. I turned 60 this year, and I'm talking to my guys right now about a healthy process in calling the next pastor. I said, because my job as a pastor is not to retire when it's time to retire. It's to train and get the next guy ready. We have to have a succession plan. That's part of revitalization coaching too.
Okay.
One of the things that Rayner says, there's no success without a succession plan, right?
Yeah.
And those are just little tidbits based
Okay.
based on some of the things we're talking about.
So for the guy that says he's evaluated ministry, said, you know what? It's not as healthy as it should be. I've still got life in me. I'm going to make an effort. if it starts inside of him, but what are some simple practical steps before it starts getting so heavy? What are some
Yep.
simple practical steps? What should he do first? What should he do
Well,
second? Is there anything that you can
yep.
practically give?
Reach out, identify a healthy church in your area,
Okay.
and just, I mean, if you're okay, that church. Now, I'm not saying the church that runs 5,000 or the church that does this or the church that does that, but go into that a church that you know the pastor, you know the leadership, you're familiar with what they do, even if it's not in your town. Identify a healthy church that you would say, okay, those are some things I can, and then go to that church and go in with a million questions, set up an appointment with that pastor, ask them about their journey, ask them about, listen, every pastor wants another pastor to come to them and say, hey, I want to know what you're doing because you're doing it right. Yeah, they're going to sit down and buy you lunch if you do something like that. So that's an early thing you can do. Read, 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 read. There are, I mean, the resources that are out there today in this specific subject are unbelievable. There
Okay.
was a book written about, it may have been 20 years ago. Well, Church Transitioning book is a great book to read. It's called Church Transitioning, and it gives the transition story of Flamingo Road Baptist Church. Great, great book.
Okay.
Relevant for BBFI pastors
Okay.
because it really is part of our DNA. So we would get all that.
Okay.
Breakthrough Churches. One of our own, David Stokes, his church is in that book, and it talked about how they took their church from 30 or whatever it was, 400 people up to a church of 1,000 people. And it wasn't in his first, second, third, fourth, fifth year. It was like 15, 20 years after him being there that he started using some of these principles. And Dave's one of our guys. And I'll tell you this, Dave's like a ghostwriter now, and he does all these things. Dave's also he's either going to say thank you or kill me for saying this. He's pretty accessible and loves pastors and would spend an hour on the phone with you, helping you with some of the stuff like this.
Okay.
I'm not an expert. I do this as a ministry of our church because it's kind of funny. You and I have both done capital fundraisers, and
Yeah.
they give you the package, and well, you're looking to raise $1 million, or we can do that for you, and it'll only cost you $25,000. Well,
Yeah.
you know, a church that wants revitalization, most of the time, it doesn't have a war chest of money to pay somebody to come in and do this all-star consulting. So our church, most of the churches that I've done it for, I'm really happy when we get our expenses paid because my church has sent me to churches and covered all of it, just so we can invest in other churches because we see the value of what these things have done in our church as well.
Okay.
I'm doing a camp with my buddy Joe Roberts. He was one of the greatest basketball living legends of Baptist Bible College.
Okay.
Just ask him. He'll tell you. And he took a church, merged with a church, and he's walking them through all these different things. And it's been a blessing to be a part of his church through this process as well. And we've been helping him a lot as well. And it's been really amazing.
Okay. So first, we just recap. First, it's got to be in the heart and life of the believer, of the pastor.
Yes.
They've got to be moved to a point to realize they need to be healthy, and the church will reflect to them. If they're not healthy, the church isn't going to be healthy. So
it's kind of scary to think that we're supposed to be the most spiritual people in our church, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's number
a
one.
challenge.
Number two, they need to read. Man, they need to invest. I had a really good friend named Gary Rains who always said, if you stopped reading, you've stopped learning. If you stopped learning, you've stopped living. So we need to read, and there are quality books to read on church revitalization.
And listen to.
Okay.
I have a couple. I have, our mutual friend, Lonnie Larriman, Bruce O'Neill.
Yes. Yeah.
I have it too. Dyslexia. And reading is like you might as well tell me to do 50 push-ups instead because sometimes it's a task. But there are all these resources are now available on tape. Not tape. That was an old school thing to say. On
8-track.
on 8-track. But you can get all this stuff online. Everything's downloadable. There's so much stuff on YouTube. Just find a niche of a coaching resource and then get help. Okay. There's guys that want to help you. There are guys out there that want to help your church.
That's
Yes, sir.
they're the coaches, and they're fellow pastors that can help you. And
Hmm.
pastors of ministry, maybe that are similar, maybe larger, but they would love to be a help to you. And church revitalization, church development of the Baptist Bible Fellowship is a part of the ones that want to be a help. And then we utilize a resource that Jason Peterman got us connected with. It's called Small Church USA. Terry Thompson out of
Ah,
Indiana do a
Ja-
fantastic job. Do a
Jason's doing
fantastic job.
he's got a great church. He's
Yes.
crushing it.
Yeah.
And he's out
Good
of Park
stuff.
Crest too, isn't he?
He sure is. He sure is. So
Well, look at you, Pastor
yeah.
Phil.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So the pastor has been moved. The Lord's moved him to revitalize a church. He's read up tons of material. Man, he is ready to go, and he slowly starts making some changes. Okay, be frank with me and with us. What are some things that pastor is going to go through?
Well, poor planning produces poor product, right?
Okay. Okay.
So if you don't put a good plan together, you can't just come into your church one Sunday and say, "Hey, one of the guys that I helped a couple years ago said one of the demises of his church was the former pastor got up and said, "Hey, I went to the Rick Warren conference on purpose-driven church. We are now a purpose-driven church." Like one Sunday, and just declared themselves that and
Yeah.
said, "We're going to do all these different tenets of being purpose-driven." Never trained anybody, never sold them the vision, and just said, "This is what we're doing. Now go do it," kind of a thing. Well, that's poor planning,
Yeah.
right? So you've got to
Yeah.
you really have to put like a playbook together to plan it out, steps that you need to take. You got to get your board on board. You've got to get key leaders bought into what you're doing. The best way that we teach and train people and disciple people is from that sacred desk of our pulpit or table or whatever cool thing that you're speaking behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got to, with what we impart into them from the scriptures, from the Bible. You don't lose any of your value system in being a conservative, fundamental, evangelical, Bible teaching, Bible believing church just because you're reaching a lot of people with the gospel. But
Yeah.
if you don't train your people on how to do it a little bit differently and take steps in their life for personal growth and be willing to do the work, it's like anything worth successful, a business, your health, it's going to take time. It's going to take a learning curve for different churches. Some churches will excel really quick in some areas. For instance, if you're going to revitalize a church that has sin in their past, I mean that's a whole different track that church needs to go through of where the focus is really on spiritual revitalization. I'm saying that to say that be patient, put your plan together because the plan that worked for my church might not be the same plan that works for
Right.
your church,
Right.
right? But like you said, step one, personal growth, your personal walk with the Lord Jesus Christ. Number two, the Holy Spirit's anointing and direction
Which
in
is
your
going to
life.
involve what you said, like a playbook. I would say that Holy Spirit's going to be a playbook. You're going to have to
That's
pray
a good word.
that the Lord's leading through all of that and guides you and gives you the right steps, and then to walk through those plans. And those plans are going to be put together based upon your custom situation, based upon
Yeah.
the Lord's prompting in that area to work. Wow.
It's funny. We see a lot of guys, younger pastors, and I was this way too. We see the old people in our churches sometimes as our enemies for progressiveness, right?
Hmm.
And when you really when you talk to somebody, and I remember some of the old dudes at Park Crest when we were there in school. When you talk to somebody that is might not be a business titan or they're just a Jesus loving, faithful tithing, loves the church. Their whole life is the church, right? These folks want the church to be relevant for the future.
Mhm.
They're not the ones that get in the way of that. What gets in the way is our poor planning, our impatience with process, impatience with people.
Mhm.
And if we got it's just you got to be willing to pay the price.
Yeah.
It's easy to merge into something that somebody else is doing and just
But
get to that point where you can hit 65 and hopefully the church will give you some retirement money. That's easy to do.
yeah.
What's hard to do is let's let's think differently. Let's think outside of what our normal is, not apart from scriptures, of course, and really grasp what we're going to have to do in our crazy changing world. My kids think it's hilarious that I never had a cell phone growing up. My kids can't even believe that I didn't have my first computer till I was 30 years old.
Yeah.
And now
We
they
didn't know
have
what
all
Google
this
was.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. All these
Yeah.
resources and all this technology, which is dominating our world. Now, this whole AI thing, we can't even comprehend it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the impact that that's going to have on our world yet. All these things of relevance in ministry, where that's where the world is. And if we don't start to understand where the world is, let me throw this out to you, Pastor Phil. We have great missionaries. There was a class that you probably took and I took. I was a missions major at school. And it was cultural anthropology. David Lingo taught it. I love Brother Lingo. He was a dear friend and just a great mentor in my life when I was in school. And cultural anthropology. And what it was is the study of human life and human behavior, right? We understand that.
Yeah.
Missionaries are taught when you go to a different country, you learn a different language. There's a language that's being spoken by our young people today that we don't understand. Yeah. Missionaries are taught when they go to a foreign country, you can't do things the way that Americans do things all the time. You can't compromise scripture, but you can't do ministry the same way. Yeah. We all loved it 25 years ago, and we saw the churches in Africa and all the dancing and stuff they were doing. We were like, yeah, this is awesome. Our people need to see this. Yeah. It just wasn't the same, right? We teach our missionaries cultural relevance, but we are afraid of it because when we hear cultural relevance in the way that we do ministry in our churches today, we think that means compromise. Yeah. And we don't have to do that. We're not compromising our value system if we're hell-bent on reaching unsaved people for Jesus Christ. I'm going to say something. I know you know it's true. People say to me all the time, well, you're in Dallas, you're near Dallas, Texas. That's what do they call that? The belt buckle of the Bible belt.
Yeah, Bible belt, yeah.
I've been in Texas for 11 years, and we've turned over our church 2 or 3 different times because of COVID, everything everybody else has dealt with.
Sure.
And I've been there 11 years. I'm a pretty outgoing guy. I talk to people everywhere I go. I know all my neighbors. I've not been invited to church one time by anybody else in our overly church culture. People say the same thing about Springfield. Oh, all these churches. Your churches are reaching people for Jesus. Yeah. And what your church is doing, another churches 5 miles away can't do, right? And we think that, you're not where we are. We're in the big city of Philadelphia, the big city of Chicago, the big city of this, big city of that. And I love what's going on in the Northeast. That's my heart. You know what I mean? That's still part of my DNA. But the truth is, wherever God has you, he has you there to make a difference in that community. And he wants you to be revitalized.
To reach them.
So that you can revitalize and reach people in your community with the gospel.
Okay. Hey, let's draw it to a close with this. Give me some success stories. I don't mean that means names or even names of churches.
I don't mind guys getting mad at me.
Okay. What are some success stories? Who are some voices that if we would entertain that, we could listen to and say, okay, I'm going to study them and what's going on. That's one thing about the fellowship I love.
Absolutely.
I look at different people that do different things and maybe are doing totally different than each other, but God has used them in a great way to revitalize a ministry, take it from the tradition and move it to a growing spiritual, healthy church. Who are some success stories that you might point out?
Well, I mean, some of the, better known names. Brian Moore took a church that was, big financial issues, big past issues with morality.
Yeah.
He went through it his first few years there. Yeah. And now, everybody knows that Brian is just a great pastor, and he is, coaching guys
and moving, sure.
And things like that. I think regional is important too. Like if you're down south or like southeast anyway, Grant Staubs at Midway, he's taken a great church and is done some great things with that church, and it's a booming, healthy church now, and it was healthy before. He followed a fantastic hero of a pastor, Craig Killinan in Temperance, Michigan. He took an old church And man, the best worst thing that ever happened to that church is it burned down to the ground.
Mm,
And now he's got beautiful facilities. I think
wow.
he's doing 2 or 3 services every Sunday and killing
Yeah.
it. Killing it. Killing it is killing it.
Killing it.
In the Northeast, guys like Sean and Anthony,
Yeah.
surrounding yourselves with other guys.
Yeah.
We use this slogan, we're better together, we're better together, but we really practice being on an island a little bit better than we should. Better together means leaning on other guys and learning from their expertise. So there's Joe
Yeah.
Roberts down here. He's in Abilene, and he's not only been a successful church planner, he is like right the first 2 chapters of church revitalization. And I think I think he told me since January, they've had over 100 people saved in their church services
Okay.
and baptized about 50 just since January.
Okay.
So he's doing a great job and taking an old church with a lot of new people and doing some great things.
Okay.
Um,
That you struck a nerve there, which will be my final question. Why is church revitalization worth it?
have you ever gone into a church as a pastor, like on vacation or one of your buddies' churches, and wished your perceived health of that church for you and your church? And then you have
Oh,
all the buts.
okay.
But we have, that, but I have this, but we have this issue. We have to kind of have that spirit of David with David and Goliath and be like, you're talking against the
Yeah.
the armies of the living God. We've got to approach it with that kind of vigor and not like just kind of exist until we retire.
Good.
I mean, I don't want. I think it was Bruce Garner just said this at a fellowship meeting I was at about a month ago in Texas. He said, I'm 55 years old. And I was like, I'm older than Bruce Garner. I am really old. I hope he sees that. But this is what he said. He said, my grandparents, my dad was, he said, and I told my church recently, I've preached more sermons in my past than I'm going to in my future. That
Wow.
rocked me.
Wow.
Okay, so if I have 12 great years of pastoring left in me, I hope I have more than that. But if that's what I have left, what am I going to do with it? Am I just going to let my church be the way that it is and just kind of merge into the ebb and flow of how?
Coast, yeah.
Or do I want to go out with my boots on, and leave a church that's healthy, that matters, so that the guy that I'm setting up, it will be able to take it to a next level that I could never even imagine because it's beyond my giftedness. So I think that's what I think, to remember why we do what we do, who we do it for.
Yeah.
It's also that self-realization of I can't do this by myself, because isn't it amazing what God can do in and through us when we empty ourselves of ourselves,
Yeah.
and he shines through us instead of us being the big, big mouthpiece of the world for everybody else.
We got to get out of the way, don't we?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what John Bullock said to me from Marcus Hook, the dude that wept. He said, Pastor, he said, what's happening in our church, I never thought would happen in a church like this. He said, we have to be very careful that we don't get in the woods to do. And that's what I want to be for my life, for our church as well.
Hey, Ed, thanks for taking a part out of your week while you're at camp, investing in your kids and investing in pastors, many of which will be a part of the Baptist Bible Fellowship. Thanks very much for giving your time. Thanks for investing in us. Appreciate your time. Have a great time at the rest of the week of your camp, okay?
Blessings, my friend. Thank you, Phil.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.